we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Baker Hughes.
We've got a lot of lawsuits going on right now.
Yeah, what's going on?
Lawsuits all
very,
over the place
very
in the energy
litigious
space.
sector lately.
Yeah.
To the surprise of
there's been maybe too many mergers and acquisitions
Perhaps.
proposed.
just a few, but to the surprise of nobody at this table, the Justice Department filed a lawsuit for antitrust concerns of the proposed merger between Baker Hughes and Halliburton. Obviously, nobody here was surprised. Any things that surprised you from the announcement?
Not a whole lot. I didn't think it would get so far that the Justice Department would actually sue. I thought that
Did make them sell stuff.
I thought that what was going to end up happening was, and this was my kind of theory why I wasn't totally on board with the idea, is I thought that what was going to end up happening is to make the merger happen, they would have to strip out so many parts to, meet Department of Justice needs that it wouldn't have been a whole lot bigger than, as a two separate entities in the first place. But it seems like Halliburton, Baker Hughes still
They wanna fight it.
kind of pushing on.
They're going to fight it.
I do want to
Halliburton
get
is
Taylor
fighting it
more.
because-
They don't want to write a $3.5 billion
and
check.
because Baker Hughes can't say, screw it, we're done.
Right.
Only Halliburton can do that until the end of this month. Then Baker Hughes can be like,
Listen,
this isn't
guys,
worth it. We're done. Give us our money.
That seems likely to happen now,
Well,
doesn't
maybe.
it?
I don't know.
If it
made
wouldn't
a
be
lot
the
of
most
changes.
absurd thing for
Yeah.
Baker Hughes to step away and say, we're done, give us our $3.5 billion, we'll take either all the debt off or we can maybe go acquire in a smaller oil services company.
If oil prices were sky high, they'd be like,
"Peace
please
out."
buy us. But because they can go out and maybe buy some competitors.
Well, there were some analysts, though, that said, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this in the Wall Street Journal article that I read about this. Some analysts said that Baker Hughes might struggle on its own if this doesn't go through. Is there any truth to that?
I mean, they were kind of compared to Halliburton and Schlumberger. They were already struggling.
Right.
And they've made a lot of changes probably internally to help this deal go through. And traditionally, I guess, the acquirer does better after a failed merger or acquisition. But these two compete head-to-head, so just handing your direct competitor $3.5 billion.
On that note, there's actually a quote that I really wanted to read. Bill Baer, it's B-A-E-R, I assume it's Baer, the Justice Department's antitrust chief pulled no punches in his criticisms of the merger, and he said, I couldn't believe this. I have seen a lot of problematic mergers in my time, but I have never seen one that poses so many antitrust problems in so many markets. That's kind of a scathing indictment right there. I mean... what was it? There were like 23 markets they were worried about or something?
Yeah, they are the number 2 and the number 3 in the oil services industry. And when you bring those two together, you could say Weatherford International and Superior Energy Services are competitors.
Who?
Exactly. Exactly. So when you bring those two together, or Baker Hughes and Halliburton together, you have a pretty much a duopoly in the sector, and that poses a little bit more problems. At least with that third player, you get a little bit more pricing competition that makes it a little bit more favorable to the entire industry, where somebody isn't going to get gouged. So
I mean, I wonder, though, Schlumberger and Cameron, that was passed in like a day, and
this has been a year and a half.
Now they're
we've been
an
talking.
offshore monster. On top of Schlumberger already being by far the biggest company in equipment and services in the oil field. So when that passed, I was thinking, okay, this has a much better chance. But now it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I mean,
Cool.
Halliburton has $10 billion in cash, so losing a third of it wouldn't be the best thing in the world. But they wouldn't necessarily put him in the
Right.
They
would not have agreed to it if they didn't think Grum.
they're not heading for the bread line after
No,
this.
absolutely not. It would be tough to see a competitor. I'd liken it to like T-Mobile, who received billions twice from Sprint over failed takeovers, and now look at them. They're like the fastest growing
They're doing what
mobile company in
They
the
made
world.
good use of that money.
Absolutely. They didn't decide to give a special dividend.
What's Baker Hughes' market cap? Does anybody know
Off the
offhand?
top of my head.
Not off the top of my
I
head.
hate to do that to you guys.
Actually, I have. That's what computers are for.
It's fine.
So its market cap currently
$20.39
there we
billion.
go.
So this is a significant chunk of change for them.
Absolutely.
That's like 15-16% of their worth.
Right.
I mean,
And
they only have $2.3 billion of cash on the books.
Are you interested in buying Baker Hughes now?
Not before this happens. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just going
fun.
to stick to my guns with Halliburton and ride this out because regardless if this deal doesn't go through, the stock is probably worth more than it is if
Right.
oil rebounds. So
Right.
I'm not
And-
worried as a long-term shareholder.
And going back to the long-term thesis on a lot of this, what was it, late 2014 when this deal was announced, and I'll admit I think some of us were as guilty of getting caught up in it. But there's so much, attention that's given to, do you buy with the merger or do you sell with the merger? And there's so much talk when it comes to these sort of things of buy, sell, trade. It's very speculative. I mean, we've been talking about this story for a year and a half almost now, and it looks like it's going the other way. When if there were people out there that actually bought based on the acquisition and making them a powerhouse, if that is your thesis for making this investment, you might want to wait until the ink is dry and you can see some operational performance on an acquisition before you really start to get into it. Don't automatically dive in on an announcement. Actually be a patient investor and see a well-performing company actually hit its targets before you really want to dive in on something like this.